Awesome. Well, it's 1 o'clock and we will absolutely let people trickle in. But I want to go ahead and get started because we are squeezing a lot into 30 minutes. So let's just jump right in. So you might be wondering, I've been here chatting with you for a few minutes. I am Gabby LePage. I am so excited to get to talk about creating content with you today. I have been a blogger for 11 years now, which feels crazy to say. And I had started back in college just on a whim when blogs were kind of a thing. They were very new. It's almost like an online diary more so. At least that's what it felt like. So I have worked, on organic content, on content for brands. I've been able to work on a lot of travel content with brands like Delta and Hotwire and just kind of all over the place. So for me, the travel content is my favorite to create. And so it was absolutely an honor to be able to join you and talk about creating content that you can use to build your client base. So we're focusing on blogs, also social media. I know you have another social media session coming up, so we won't dive too deep into that because I know that you'll be getting a little bit deeper in that session. So we're kind of focusing on more overarching items that you can think about as you start to create content to really build up that client base, especially with trips that you've already taken and trips that you have coming up. So I'm going to switch over and go through the presentation with you. Please let me know in the chat as we go if you have any questions at all. I want this to be more of a conversation, even though I can't see you. I would love for you to pop in with your questions as we go. We will have time for questions at the end, but let me know if you want me to expand on anything or if you want to share your own experiences as well. I will be keeping an eye on that chat window as we go through the presentation. So today we're talking about leveraging that content marketing to build up that client base for you. And it looks good on my end, but if you have any trouble seeing the screen, let me know. So today we are talking about creating that high value content. So 7 things you can think about as you start to create content for your work and to, continue to build out that client list. Talking about leveraging your travels, like I said, travels you've already been on, trips that you have coming up. So you'll be totally equipped to start creating that content from those future trips as well. And then looking at exploring that blog writing so that you feel confident and comfortable in that and utilizing social media. So just so that I have an idea, where is everyone at with blogging? Like, is it totally new? Have you kind of dabbled in it? Just let me know what your what you'd say your comfortability is with it thus far. Because if you are an expert, feel free to chime in. Totally new, Sheila. I love that. There's so many opportunities with blogging, especially with getting folks, to your work, to your site, to working with you. Catherine, awesome. Never tried it, always wanted to. Oh, amazing. I love that. It's approachable here. So if you have questions, again, I'm here to answer those, but this is very much based on being totally new to it. So really starting out. So I'll give you a lot of things to think about as we go through, and feel free to screenshot. I have a few sections that have kind of ideas for even photos, like specific videos you can take. So feel free to be screenshotting those as we go. Alrighty. So starting out with creating content with intention. This is super important because it's going to streamline the process for you. So of course, traveling is really fun. You're going to have some spontaneous moments where you just want to snap these. Absolutely. But when you can, I highly recommend creating that content with intention before. So starting at planning all the way through capturing and publishing. So this is what I like to do before I start creating content. I start out on that left, so conceptualizing. What is the goal of the content that you're capturing? What's the purpose of it? Is it to get someone on a specific trip, maybe on, maybe something in particular places you want them to go? Whatever it might be, think about the goal for that content. That might be getting clients. The purpose might be getting them on a specific trip in a certain season. So if any come to mind as we're talking through conceptualization, please let me know if there's something that maybe you've been mulling over. We can workshop as we go. And then how can that content achieve those goals? So what can you capture to really get to where you want to be or where you want that content to be working for you? So just write all your ideas down, get everything kind of out in the open. That'll help you kind of brainstorm what you want that content to do as you use it the first time, as you continue to use it, because repurposing content is so helpful. There's so much you can do even with one trip. You can use it for years. I do it as a blogger. I do it on social media. It is absolutely possible. So once you've got your ideas down, you're going to want to jump into making a list. So what is it that you want to capture? So someone give me, let's see, I remember we had Greece in here. I think Sheila had put that in. So say for Greece, maybe there are 5 to 10 photos that you know, I really want to capture these, or I really want to show off these locations because I know that these are my clients. Capture those because, you know, capture those on your list and then you'll capture them on your trip. It sounds so simple when I say just make a list of what you want to capture. This is where your ideas start to branch out. I do this for every shoot now. I map out ideas that I had already been thinking about, and then that ends up kind of moving me into some additional ideas as well. So if we're talking Greece, obviously you want to capture that water, the buildings, the food, all of those different elements. As you've kind of been jotting it down in your list, and that comes back to you, you know, you'll have your list, but that comes back to you as you're taking those photos on your trip, and it doesn't seem like as much legwork because you've already done a bit of the legwork beforehand. So write it all down and then move into capturing. So start taking your photos, start writing, and then assess along the way. Maybe there are certain pieces you really enjoyed taking photos of and taking videos and writing content for, and maybe there are some that you didn't. So I like to keep track of those because obviously, you know, part of this is work, but you also want to enjoy it. So if there are certain elements that you enjoy more than others, keep that in the back of your head and use that for your next trip. And then each time it becomes a little bit more second nature. Next, and this is really important, I really want to stress that you can utilize what you have. I see a lot of folks get hung up on, I say, the toolkit. So maybe they don't have this super fancy camera. That's okay. No one starts out with just a super fancy camera because we can use what we have to do really great work. So I always say learn first and then you can upgrade later. If you even need to, you might not need to. Start with capturing your photos and videos on your phone. Just use your phone and play around. You know, you can use Lightroom is a favorite of mine. If you don't have the Lightroom app, I would highly recommend checking that out. You can save other presets, or is generally kind of just a term that they use, but you can save presets from other people and do like a little kind of tap to edit. So it's nice and quick because you're already working, right? We want to make sure that this fits in nicely with what you're already doing. Yes, Catherine, Lightroom. So you'll see that it is an Adobe product, but on the phone, it is a free app. So Lightroom is a great one to start playing around with. You can do a lot with it. And the photos look amazing. Phones have just like come such a long way now that it's not even necessary to have this big camera with you. So don't let that stop you. Have your phone, and I say computer for publishing content, but you truly could write from your phone as well. So if you're creating blog posts on the go, you might be drafting it up on your phone maybe one evening or a morning on your trip or after the fact as well. Again, you can just use what you've got already. And then the most important is willingness to learn. So knowing that, you know, you'll get better as you go. So just kind of, it's a bit of putting yourself out there in terms of creating those few initial batches of content truly. But as long as you're willing to learn, you will get better each and every time. And before I get into the next one, actually, if there are any apps that you've already used, maybe for social media, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I've also used VSCO or Visco. That's a really great photo editing app. Any of those can be super helpful for photos outside of social media. So you can be saving those to put in your blog posts. Layout, okay, awesome. We can get a little list going here. There are so many great ones. Film, I believe it has 2 M's, is at the end, is a really great app for videos. So if you want quick little videos, gone are the days of, yes, we absolutely love our videographers. They've got their expertise, but if you're looking at quick videos on the fly, there's so many apps out there that you can use to then put those images on social and in your blog posts. So I feel funny because I say every time I'm like, this is really important, but that's why we put them all in here for you. Getting to know your audience. And I generally like to use the word community, the community that you have currently, and also the future community members who will be following along on social and on your blog. It's really key to start to get to know them, because then you can find a happy medium between the content that they're really engaging with and the content that you are having fun creating, because we still want this to be fun. I'm just reading questions from Catherine. Where do you form the blog? Is it Instagram, Facebook? Great question. So you can do it multiple ways. You can have like micro blogs, is almost what people call them on social media. So on Instagram, there's a tool called Guides, where you can save a few different posts and create a guide for Greece, guide for visiting Greece in 1 week. You can also do long form. So long form blog posting is more so on a website host. So Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, Showit is a new one. If you're creating one of those, that can help you get more folks to your website to be working with you, booking with you, etc. So it's up to you, whatever you prefer. I'm encompassing a bit of social media and a bit of the longer form blog posting in this session. And then again, you'll dive a little bit deeper into social media in a session following mine. And if like blogging the long form blogging might seem a little intimidating at first, but once you get your rhythm down, you've got some great photos to share, you've got a list of places to visit. If you're doing a travel guide, you learn as you go. No one jumps into it knowing exactly how to create like a full blog post. It takes some tweaking and learning over time. But I recommend trying out long form blog posts or blog writing when you can. So getting to know your audience, I'm including a few ways here, both for social media and also long form blog posting. That's like a tongue twister to say. But most importantly is to chat with them. Like just open up a conversation with them. So it's chatting with them and not at them through your social media posts, through options on Instagram, and I'm specifically covering Instagram for this, polls in your stories. So maybe it's should I visit A or B? Should I get, wine or a cocktail with dinner? And it may sound like silly little things, but it creates this rapport with your existing clients, with future clients, and with your community as a whole. So let me know in the chat if you've used any of these tools on Instagram, whether it's the question box sticker, polls, or any calls to action in your posts. So maybe it's where do you want to visit next, or drop your favorite travel destination in the caption or in the comments. If you've used any of those, I'd love to hear what you think of them, how they work for you. Sometimes it takes, it can take some time to build up that engagement, but it's a really useful tool for getting to know your audience and what they're enjoying engaging with. I'd also suggest using Google Analytics and social media analytics. So if you're trying out long form blog posting on Squarespace, WordPress, etc., any website along those lines, I would highly recommend. There are a ton of easy tutorials out there to just quickly link up Google Analytics to that site. What that can tell you is the content that your audience is really engaging with, and also it can tell you about them. It can tell you about their interests. Do they like, let's see, maybe there are certain travel destinations, or maybe it's summer travel with kids. There are tons of interest that you can find from Google Analytics, and you can find it just from searching Google Analytics. Once you link up your site, it is amazing for understanding your audience, because that'll give you content ideas as well. So it's multi-purpose. You get to know your audience, and then you can also work on content ideas for future trips and have those planned out even before you leave. So now we're getting into keywords. I know we're jumping all around. I wanted to include so many different facets of how you can utilize content marketing. So stop me if there are any questions. But keywords are imperative. And I like to say keyword planning is content planning, because that's giving you an idea of what you're going to be capturing for your photos, your videos, and what you're going to be writing. So keywords, why are we talking about them? Well, think of it this way. It's when someone is searching on Google, maybe they're searching Barcelona, where to go in Barcelona. Maybe they're looking at Pinterest and they want to know where are the best restaurants in Barcelona. It's also hashtags on social media. So when at any time anyone's searching one of those, they're looking at those are the keywords, which is what you want to incorporate in your content. Because when they're searching those items, then your content will start to pop up. So I wanted to give a quick little example here to make it just kind of more digestible. So for Charleston, I included a quick little search for Charleston, and I had looked on, there are a few different tools you can use. There are Google Trends and also a Google Keywords tool or search that can help you see what people are searching, like how many people are searching for a certain keyword or set of keywords, and that gives you content ideas. So for this little list here, I had searched, I think I had looked at visiting Charleston or a weekend in Charleston. And when I used one of those keyword tools, it gave me all of these like search terms that people are using in a decent amount. So these are all within, I think, 1 to 10,000 searches a month. So what that gives me is content ideas. And so same for you. If you were to hop into that Google keyword search, it's again a totally free tool, and you search your destination, it's going to come up with all of these different searches, which can give you content ideas. So that might be, these are the elements that came up or the keywords that came up, things to do in Charleston, boat tours in Charleston, Charleston travel guide, so on and so forth. So using those keywords can help you plan out your content, because then you'll know what people are already searching for, and you can create content based on that. And this is great if you're jumping in and you're like, I have no idea what to write and I have no idea what to put on Instagram or on a blog. This is a really great and helpful tool for getting you started. We also want to make sure that you're incorporating images and video. So like we talked about earlier, it's absolutely okay to be starting out with just your phone or even just using that for good. There's no push to get this big fancy camera, but you want to make sure that you are mixing up that media with how visual everything is right now. When we talk about social media, you can't even post on Instagram without a photo or video, right? So these are super helpful tools for not only engaging your community, but also helping get your content found. So it kind of all ties in with those keywords. So on images, you can dive really deep into SEO. We could talk for days about search engine optimization and getting people to find your content. The important thing to note here is that you incorporate images and video and that you tag them. So if you're, or let me back up for a second. If you're sharing them on your blog post, there's a thing that you'll see that's like alt tag or image description. You want to incorporate those keywords. So if we included, say it's pictures of a boat tour in Charleston, that's your keyword there. Make sure that's tagged on the images, because when people are searching on Google, Google's pulling from those tags to understand what those photos are. So making sure that you're tagging those with the keywords that you're basing your content around is super important, because that's how it'll get found. And I know that's kind of like this, we're going kind of around it in a big way. There's a lot that we're encompassing and pushing into 30 minutes. So look up SEO, alt tags, make sure that you're incorporating those, because that's huge for Pinterest, for Google, any other search engine. It's going to be really important for helping get those posts in front of the people you want it to be in front of. And think about this. This blows my mind. It's very clear that we have become very visual. We have a very short attention span, humans as a whole, but this is really important to know, because I could say, make sure you're including photos and video. It's really important, but this stat I think really drives it home, because articles with images are getting 94% more views than those that don't have them. So my recommendation is to start out small. Start out with maybe 5 photos. If you're doing a long blog post, include 5 great images. Make sure they're tagged with your keywords. So maybe I keep going back to being on a boat in Charleston, because that sounds really great right now. But maybe if you're including a photo on the boat, maybe there was some snacks there that you were enjoying. Maybe you've got the view of Rainbow Row in Charleston. You're looking back onto the city. Maybe there is a photo of someone on the boat that you're traveling with. just start with 5 photos. I think that that is a doable number to start with, and you can always expand. You don't need to include 20, 30 photos. Just start small and make sure that you're incorporating them, because it's such a huge help. So to give you a few examples of photos, the one on the left is just like a nice little city view. So showing off the city people want to see, or town, or wherever you might be. Show that off in some of those images. We talk about images as a whole being important. Images with people are also really important. So if you can have someone snap a photo of you, or maybe a photo, maybe you're taking a picture of someone that you're traveling with, incorporate that too. And we've got another set in a second that'll drive that home. The final photo, food. People love restaurants. I would love to know, kind of as we're going through these different photo types, if you've noticed that you've loved taking any specific types of photos, or maybe if you are sharing on social already, what kinds of photos people have loved that you've shared already. Maybe it's people really love when you share food, or really love those city views or skyline view. When you get into your analytics, that can really show you what's doing well. And then again, you find that happy medium with what you've enjoyed creating. So mix up your photos, get the food, a restaurant, city view, etc. There are so many different shots that you can play around with within those, maybe if you're starting out with 5. So using photos of real people, super important. I know I alluded to this, but using photos of real people as opposed to stock images can result in a 35% conversion increase. So there are great stock photos out there, really wonderful stock images, but it's still not performing as great as if you were taking a photo of maybe someone you were traveling with, or having someone take a photo of you. Photos with faces do really, really well on social. I think on your longer blog posts, it's okay if it's not a photo with someone's face or your face in it, but those generally do really well. So this kind of goes back to content planning. Maybe say, oh, you know what? For social, I want to get a photo with my face, but in the blog post, maybe you want to get it of you walking away, so it shows a little bit more of the city, or it shows some more interaction of people that are also exploring the city that day. This, as you start to do it, it becomes this circle, and it's very cyclical of knowing what you're planning out, to taking the photos, to planning again for the next trip. So if you're heading on a trip soon, I'd love to know where you're headed, so we can all travel vicariously through you. But make sure to incorporate photos with people at some point, if you can, at least one. And this, if you want a screenshot, this can be a helpful little list of ideas for what types of images to capture. So maybe it's selfies in front of popular locales, video pans of the city, selfies with folks you're traveling with, images with your favorite meals. There's a whole, you can, as you start to take them, you'll really start to see that the ideas come a lot easier to you. So feel free to take a little screenshot of this, and then start to build out your list for your next trip. Next is to experiment always. So I always say, just try it. One, have fun with it, but also push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone. So I know we're kind of popping all around with what to do and where to start, and we've gone from content planning to now experimenting with it. But I have another little list here for you that might help with giving you some ideas of how you can kind of keep things fresh, no matter where you're starting out from or what point you're starting out from. So revisit analytics, and then you can see from there what is performing well. What are people looking at? What are people enjoying? What is being shared and saved the most? And you can look at that in 3 months, or in the past month, or the past 2 years. Look at those, because that'll help drive what you're taking photos of and taking videos of. Try new media types. Push yourself to take a video instead of a photo. Stay on top of social news. So, for example, Instagram Reels. Maybe that's something that you are diving into in the next session and can try out. So keeping on top of new, kind of just available options within each app, or within blog posts, or within Pinterest, that can really help you too, because when something new comes out, that's what's really pushed and favored in terms of your images and content being shown in that greater feed. Embrace seasonality too. This is really important because seasonal searches are just like pretty much always king. So summer travel, I've got down here some oysters on the next slide. But summer travel is like just, you all know, you're in the industry, but there are a lot of different things that you can incorporate and in your content planning as a whole. So if you think like winter markets in Europe, maybe start of spring, like the flowers are blooming, people maybe are going to DC or they're going elsewhere because of those flowers. That can help drive the content on your social media and on your blog as well. So really embrace seasonality. Again, jump outside of your comfort zone and enjoy the process because there's just so much that you can do with it. And there's a lot that you can build out from having really great content, because when you have that really great content, that's getting folks to your website, that's getting folks to your social media, and then to eventually turn into a client, or maybe they know someone who could be a good fit to work with you. Having great content is so important. It's not just putting yourself out there, but it's also providing real value for your current clients and future clients as well. So even like thinking of guides, like I love seeing the travel guides, like what to do with 48 hours in Dubrovnik, like wherever. There's different opportunities for these like overarching travel guides that can live as a blog post and then turned into social media content. So that's a really great way to repurpose your content, is maybe you have this larger, longer form blog post. From there, taking that content and breaking it up. So for example, when I worked with Delta a few years back on some content for Dublin, we broke that up and did, best coffee shops in Dublin and where to go with 48 hours in Dublin. So you can take little pieces of maybe this larger travel guide and turn that into other bite-sized pieces of content, either for social or for your blog. And you'll see as you start to write down those ideas. So as you're in that conceptualization phase, moving into making that plan, you'll start to get these other ideas, because then you'll know to go and do your keyword search. What are people looking at right now? What are they interested in? What are people already searching? It's this whole like content planning sphere that you can find yourself in, and then the ideas will start to kind of tumble, which is what you want to happen. So finally, is that practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes you better every time. So if there's anything that, as you're listening in to all these different pieces we just talked about and crammed into 30 minutes, what pieces stood out as like, oh gosh, I don't know where I'm starting with that? Or what's something on the flip side that you feel really comfortable in? I'm here, I know that we've got a few minutes left for any questions, but I'd love to know kind of where your head's at. Where are you excited to kind of like jump in and learn, or what are you excited to jump in and learn about? Like I said, if you can just keep practicing, it will get better each time. So whether that's in your writing, photos, videos, all of it comes together as you continue to be creating that content. And we got through a lot in that short amount of time. So I will be hanging out here for a few more minutes. I don't know if it'll automatically cut me off or not, but I'm happy to answer questions about blogging or using content marketing, creating content, planning it, or even ideas. So if you wanted to workshop for another minute or so, if anyone has a trip coming up, feel free to let me know and we can chat about that. But hopefully this has been helpful with some ideas of creating that content. Okay, Catherine has a question. How do you protect your work while blogging? Do you mind expanding? I want to make sure I'm understanding your question correctly or properly. Do you mean in terms of like legally, like protecting it from being like taken and used, or I just want to make sure legally? Okay, yes. So that's a really great question. And so when you're taking an image, you kind of own that copyright, right? Like it is your image. So if you're talking more specifically about someone asking to use it, language that I use is, yes, it can be used if I want to offer to someone else is that they can use it with proper credit, or if someone is attempting to use your photo, technically you can charge for that image. So if someone is attempting to use your image of, I don't know, say a trip you had taken recently and they want to use it to sell something else, right? That might be a moment where you're saying, okay, that's something different. That's purchasing the rights to my images or the rights to my content. And then that would incorporate a fee. So for me, it's more so on like a case by case basis. So that's generally what I do. I've seen there are always people who have taken content and run with it on their own. So that does happen, but generally folks will ask, or that's what I hope to see. Fabio is asking, do you recommend any special blogging platform to use? Great question. Squarespace really simplified how their tools work. So Squarespace is a really great one because you can just select a blog kind of template and customize it without having to jump into code or hiring someone. I highly recommend that. Wix is another one that I know folks really enjoy. I use two. I use both Squarespace and WordPress can be very kind of like particular, and there's a lot more that goes in on the back end. So I would highly recommend a Squarespace or a Wix to start that long form blog post outside of what you're doing on social. And then you can always switch to. It's easy if you end up preferring another tool, you should be able to export blog posts and then have that sent over to your new site. So if you're like, oh, I don't know which one is the right one, it's okay. You can always start and then move to a separate platform or a different platform. Kevin, I hope that answered your question earlier about the legality. Marina, where can you post what you blog? Oh, great. So in terms of sharing outside of blogging, right? So where can you post what you blog? I'm trying to make sure. So I will generally share it. So when I share the blog post, I then kind of have a little trickle of next steps. So for me, I share a blog post on my website, and then I cross-post it onto Pinterest, and then I do the same on Instagram in a different format. So Pinterest is really great for getting folks over to your site, especially with all the keywords that you can use. So for example, on Pinterest now, they allow you to kind of write on your image. So you could say, or type on your image rather. So you can upload the image that links back to your blog post about said image, and then say, maybe it's 24 hours or 48 hours in Crete. So you can include that and then caption it, including any keywords that make sense for that particular post. And then on Instagram, maybe you play around with it. Like maybe some Instagram stories, maybe you do an Instagram post. If you're doing individual posts on the feed, that's great, but you can also do a carousel and include multiple images, or you can try that guide section out. So you can maybe share within that, play around with that. Definitely check that out. If you haven't quite done so yet, you can share posts that have already been shared within a guide. So you could say, my favorite places to eat in Paris, and then you can share posts like from those restaurants, or you can share posts that you've already shared. So then that gives your clients, again, gives your community, it's just showing your expertise and that you've been to those locations, or just that what to do there. So there are so many different ways that you can share it after you initially post. Can you make money blogging? Yes, you can absolutely make money blogging. A lot of it can come through partnerships and advertisements. So that's how I've monetized my work, is through partnerships and through advertisements and content creation in terms of like collaboration. So that can take some time and like getting used to. You absolutely want to read over. I will say quickly in response to this question is you want to read over any contract you get if you are moving into that monetization space. Make sure you read it, because a lot of times they'll slip in that they own rights or all rights to your content. So just think about that as you are starting out, because you don't want to sell your rights to your images and not be able to use them anymore unless they're compensating you appropriately. I know we've gone a few minutes over, so let me know please pop in your questions if there are any others, but for now, I'll wait just a few seconds. But it has been so wonderful to get to chat about blogging and content marketing and creating content with you. we could truly talk for weeks about it. There's so many possibilities out there. But for now, I'll leave you with just getting started. So just take your phone, take some photos, write down that list, look at keywords, and you're totally off to a great start with creating content for your blog. And if you prefer a micro blog using social, that is totally wonderful as well. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So I'm going to hop off. But again, thank you for joining my session. It was so wonderful to get to chat with you all. And I hope to see your blog posts circulating. So I'll keep an eye out for all this amazing travel content that's to join the world. Thank you all. Thank you, Catherine and Stacey. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of AdventureFest and have a great day, a great week. Maybe I'll get to see you at a future session soon. Take care.